webinar that he is about to share with us. And without further ado, let's just bring him on. I think this is his number. Dr. Phil, welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm okay, just getting over a detox through my nasal passages. So I just finished drinking some soup, and it's every bit of like in the 20s here in the Republic of Brooklyn. So I asked, in the cold weather, what you got cooking from down south?
Well, it's a little bit nippy here. I think we reached 70 degrees, 69, something like that. So we had a little bit of New York. Yeah, I know. And me actually reaching for a windbreaker. Anyway, yeah, poor me, right?
Yeah, exactly. Did you hear that, everybody? He's cold at 72 degrees.
Hey, listen, I acclimated. I became a native up there. Back in the day, this is light stuff. But today, if you're down here in the tropics, not the subtropics, but the tropics, you're accustomed to a certain amount of weather and constant sunshine. And we've been getting New York rain and a little bit of New York autumn, not winter, but New York autumn.
I'm looking at this title. Yeah, this is a powerful title. I never thought of, when I first looked at it, I was like, Dr. Phil's going to talk about world war. Then I looked, I was like, wait a minute. He's talking about word war and carbon-like genocide? I was like, this is deep.
Mm-hmm.
What is that all about?
Well, this is going to be one of the most important and most insightful webinar, or even the lecture, because, I do lectures as well, but I've been trying to become a little bit more, since it's been a little difficult to get me around the country, around the world, and so forth, because, I have certain requirements. And I decided to do it, via the internet now. And it's been giving me a little bit more time to relax and get more deeply involved in the telling of the story for each one of the programs. So this one I titled World War I. I'm intending to do World War II and World War III. And most people are saying, well, what is that about? Well, you have to understand that everything that motivates us to move forward or compels us at this time is based on the Word, because for those of you Christians, they say in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word, in John 1:1. So if you understand and understand what the Word is, it's a vibration. It's a sound frequency. It's a way of compelling someone through energy and through a particular focus of intention. So when we step that energy down and begin to create symbols around the sounds, we then put together a alpha beta or alphabet. And this particular way of taking sounds and the way we form words and then place them on paper, this is what I call the paper age. We had the golden age, the bronze age, the stone age. Well, this is the paper age. Paper today have been turned into vessels, and the words that they carry have a force that is backed up by guns and people who come to either take you or kick you out of your home, break in, do whatever, based on words that they receive on a piece of paper. Understand that when they're dealing with indictments and they're writing these words, when they're putting words on paper to say that the dollar bill, this one that you have on here is worth this 50 is worth this. These are all words and symbols. And we are at war based upon that. We are at war with a particular consciousness that has control of the power of the word. And when I begin to break down the word in the form of the ways that it's being used, you begin to understand that the sheets of paper that they send to your home, or the sheets of paper that they write indictments on to put you in jail, that is, the words become cargo that is delivered. That's why it's so important. That's why the post office is so important. And they have the superior claim to what we would call above priority, above top priority. The post office is one of the most powerful institutions on the land because of what they carry and because of the fact that they do use paper as vehicles or vessels that have a cargo, and that cargo are words that are empowered by the state. So when you start dealing with the word and you begin to understand how the words either can lift you up or tear you down, we're in a definite word war. Like, for instance, if you are looking, we spoke earlier about this impeachment. And I asked people, well, where are you getting your information from? What words are you listening to, and who are giving you those words that are forming your opinion? And, of course, they say, well, we hear it on the news. We hear it on CNN, NBC, NBC. Well, again, you are lost your discernment. Your discernment is being lost in your emotions. You trust them when they say what you want them to hear, what you want to hear from them. But then when you don't hear what you want from them, you say, nah, man, they lying. But immediately you believe that everything you're hearing about Trump, everything you're hearing about the Democrats, everything you're hearing about the Republicans, boom, you can go right away and go with that. But your emotions are telling you, hey, I believe this because I know this and I know. No, you don't know. You have chosen which words you wish to act on. So until we begin to discern what the word is and how powerful it is, we won't know how we're being manipulated. Like I said in the beginning, we don't have a dog in this fight, but it's for us to step out of what we're looking at and come above it. In other words, you're down on the ground and you're looking at the confusion. You're inside of the melee. You're in the mob of politics. The way to understand this is to fly above so you can get a greater perspective of the horizon and see where the battle is, who is battling, what sides are doing what the strategy is, and then you can make up your mind. But the only way you're going to do that is to fly above it and not make your assessments based upon the liars that you tend to believe when they're saying what you want to hear.
Because what I'm noticing, and I never thought I would see it in my lifetime, it almost seems like somebody's trying to spark a civil war.
Yes. How you getting it?
Could you?
Now, look what happened in Virginia. Did you see what's happening in Virginia? Now, Virginia has a governor. Virginia has a governor that went all the way Democrat. Now, you remember, we no longer have a Democratic Party. We have a socialist party that is coming under the Democratic Party. Now, socialism, communism, all the isms, schisms that Bob Marley was talking about. Socialism is about a whole other type of elite structure that turns you into one kind of, how do you say it, a kind of drone class. You don't have an individual say in anything. Everything you say or do is for the state. You don't do for yourself. You have no individual thoughts or anything. Any kind of, say, invention that you create doesn't belong to you. The state will fund it, and then the state now owns it. You don't own it. And it becomes a thing where the people who rule are the ones who institute statism and a kind of a fascism. It's a corporatocracy. So when you're looking at the ways that the word is being used and the games, the way the word is being used as a game, you get caught up. You get stymied by the twisting of the narrative so that it fits you. Now in Virginia, Virginia has the governor was the one that had the blackface. He was, I think he was in the Klan. He was in the blackface. The Klan is democratic. The Klan has always been a democracy. In fact, they're the ones who actually pushed the democracy against the Republicans. If you want to look at your history, again, don't listen to me and tell me, oh, he's on one side and so forth. Don't be that stupid, people. And don't get yourself all caught up because of your emotions. Look and assess, take your emotions out of it so that you can have a clear, critical thought. The Republicans were the ones that actually were fighting against slavery. and they're the ones who we were before we became Democrat. We became Democrat because of, what's his name? Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was this kind of moderate liberal who was appealing to both the Democrats and the Republicans. So he had the whole of America. When they killed him, Lyndon Baines Johnson then moved in, and with the signing of the Civil Rights Act, he said, behind closed doors, and in his book, you could read the book, he said, I'll have these niggers voting Democratic for the next 200 years. That was your Democratic Party. And of course, true to form, they paid off the Civil Rights Movement. They paid off all of the what's the name of the preachers in the churches. They started giving them all kinds of gratuities and making these churches into mega churches so that they can steer the people, the black people, away from republicanism and into the democracy. And that was how the game is. And am I saying this is a lie? Go check for yourself. What they did in Virginia is they had this thing where they're not listening to the so-called Constitution. Of course, there's 3 different constitutions. The organic Constitution belongs to us as the indigenous people. There are 2 other constitutions. There's the Constitution that was belonging to the territorial government and the Constitution belonging to the municipal government. The territorial government is the Queen. The municipal government is the Pope. The organic one is belonging to the Moors and the indigenous peoples. Those were the ones who first taught these Europeans what this Constitution was all about. And, of course, they usurped that power, okay, after they conquered. But in Virginia and in California, in these states like New York, they're no longer following the rule of law. This is why the impeachment now has gotten so stupid that it's to distract us. And a lot of people I've seen on Facebook, they're going with it. Oh, he's getting impeached. Impeached don't mean a damn thing. It's the Senate that decides, not the House. The House can impeach all they want. That's like a attorney general handing up an indictment. You got to go to trial, and the trial is done in the Senate. So he's not going anywhere. I hear people say, "Oh man, that means Pence is now president." No. Again, you have to. If you want to become politically, sane, then do some political studies and understand how this gulag we call the United States of America works. So now Virginia had put out some kind of plan. The socialists in Virginia had some kind of plan to go and confiscate all the guns, all the legal guns from people. Well, guess what? They have parts of the Virginia state began putting in legislature where there was sanctuary zones. Now, just like these socialist states like California talk about sanctuary cities, well, if they are going against the Constitution of their own state and the Constitution that they run under, the corporate Constitution, that says you don't open your borders to just any and everybody, you don't give licenses just to give to anybody so that they can vote for you. Well, what the people are doing in Chicago, in New Jersey, in about Colorado, in Montana, they're having these places called gun sanctuary zones.
Wow.
So anybody who's coming, right. So now anybody who's coming to try to take your guns, they can't, because now you're in that sanctuary zone where you can carry. And when you were saying this thing now, could you imagine they were talking about this governor saying we may have to have the National Guard come in and enforce a law for gun confiscation. So you can imagine the National Guard ain't nothing but the brother or sister that you see down the street that goes in every once, maybe 2 or 3, a week or 2 every month to do their duty. They're your neighbors. Now you imagine they want to roll tanks down the street to come to different houses to try to take guns. That would be the start of the Civil War. And that's what they're trying to do.
That's pretty serious.
So I've tried to. I want my brothers and sisters to become more politically sophisticated instead of them going with their emotions. They hating on Trump, but why you hate Trump? Tell me why you hate Trump. Why you love Obama? What did Obama do? Why do you hate Trump? Why do you love Trump? Tell me what it is that is motivating your feelings to put out all these things about the fact that they're racist and they're pigs. Of course, we know that. But let's understand business. Because if Trump ain't nothing else, he's a businessman. So I keep telling people, you got a business? Start writing up some plans, put down a set of protocols, and file it in to see if you can go to one of the places to get yourself a grant. Because they got billions in grant money just waiting there.
Wow. So the class that you're coming up with, the webinar series, what is somebody going to benefit? I got to play a little bit of a devil's advocate. What's in it for me? Why should I plug in on the webinar? Please tell us.
Well, first of all, I'm going to go into the Constitution Con and put you in touch with what that whole Constitution is and why it is you can't call on it if you're in a court. I can go into what's going on with the new genocide plan by the UN and what it is that you, for instance, say you got somebody up there by the name of Alexandria Ocasio is her name. Most of what you're seeing with the UN Agenda 21, when they're talking about the Green New Deal, it's backed by Soros. This thing about the warming of the planet, the global warming, and all of this kind of stuff, that's something that the billionaires are actually promoting. And this started out of London. Most people don't know that it started out of London. Of course, the planet's filthy and it's got all kind of garbage, and we better start cleaning it up. But it ain't to the point where it warms because of us. It always warms. It has a heating period every 13,000 years. And I told people about this back in 1990s, that every 13,000 years we go through this kind of a change. It'll freeze up again, but then it'll get cold again. It'll get warm again. It does that. It regulates its own temperature. The earth is a living thing. But what I'm going to do is to show you that what they want to do with this new Agenda 2030 is to herd everybody into cities and to move them out of the rural areas so that they can rewild the world for their benefit and for the resources that they want. And the people that's behind this whole movement of the Agenda 21 and the Green New Deal and the global warming and all this are all the billionaires. And they say in the agenda, most people don't read the agenda. What does the agenda say? The agenda says that it states that we want to dial back the earth to a time in the 18th century. We want to dial back the advancement of humankind back to 1750, the year 1750. Or even 1730. So they want you living the way they did back in 1730. This is set up in the protocol of the Agenda 21. They want you living as if you're, of course, the people say, well, oh, yeah, we're going back to nature and so forth. But no, what they want to do is to stop the progress of humanity. Okay, which is, again, we have to watch the type of progress we're dealing with. But what they want to do is to stop the progress of humanity, because the more progress that we make, the more we become independent of their rule. The more technologically efficient that we have, more technology, the more technological efficiency we have to take care of ourselves individually, to break away from the rule of this oligarchy, this global oligarchy of leaders that have been oppressing us and taking advantage. More and more the technology is moving us away from having to be a hive's nest. And what that does is endangers their rule. Plus, the technology has become so invasive that we now know all the dirt that they do. So they have to roll back all of what we've advanced because they're all coming out and they can't hide. They can't play their games anymore because we can all know, we can all patch in. Look at this. Remember about 25 years ago how long it would take for me to even get information over to you, how we had to roll the tapes and the cassettes to make sure that and then go out on the street and sell them just to get this message across?
Right.
Now with the internet, boom, instantaneously, I could be sending this thing to China, all over the world. They want to stop that because it's freeing up too many people. Now, I'm not all for progress because I believe progress is dangerous. I believe it becomes a drug in the hands of wrong people because we are advancing at a level of sophistication in the intellect and in the technological framework of our ingenuity, and the spiritual, the psycho-spiritual is lacking. The true technology, the one that we were supposed to develop as human beings, that's being circumvented by those people who want us to just think about the brand new little toys that light up or makes our life even more convenient so that we don't have to do anything. And so that now obesity has taken over at least a third of the planet because we've become so indolent now we can do anything at the touch of a button. So we're in a very delicate time. And what are we going to learn? We're going to learn about the UCC. We're going to learn about what it is that they are actually doing, I'm going to just give you a kind of a primer on how you can free yourself from the system. I'm going to help you to understand and understand how they are snatching up your children and what they plan to do with your children in 2020. Oh, yeah, it's going to be definitely something that you want to tune into.
Interesting. So my question is, if there's such control that they want to hold on to, why is there loosening up with marijuana and hemp and CBD?
Make you indolent. Even more. Do you ever really, after you take a hit and you're smoking, you feel like getting up and jogging and doing somebody call it, or you just feel like just basking in the profundity of the feelings that you're getting? You get that ayahuasca, do you want to go out and climb a mountain or build a house? No.
Ayahuasca is different. That's where they become activists down in South America. But weed smoking, I remember when I was dating an Ethiopian sister, she would tell me that the Rastafarians were given land by Ethiopia, and they did nothing as far as cultivating the land other than smoking weed.
That's what I'm saying. Now, again, most of that was supposed to be ritualistic. Most people don't understand that taking any of these psychotropics is ritualistic. It's not supposed to be the thing you do consistently. It is for you to communicate with the higher self. Communicating with the higher self means a seceding of work or seceding of focus. When you start taking ayahuasca, the focus is no longer on the physical plane. When you start smoking the ganja, it is no longer on the physical plane. You are going into metaphysics. You're going into another plane, another dimension. So you're operating your mind in a whole other field of frequency.
There is a movement of microdosing that's happening in California as we speak for enhancing of technical innovation.
Mm-hmm.
There has been, and I didn't want to go off on this tangent, but you said a key word, ayahuasca. I am familiar as accessing information, technical innovation, not for the purpose of Band-Aids or anesthetizing, but the indigenous people of South America, in Ecuador especially, they would use the medicine to get the strategic downloads to fight the oil gangsters trying to take their land.
Indeed, and that is a ritual.
Well, we need to do some more rituals because
you don't take it to the front. You don't take it to the front when you need to concentrate on making sure that you shoot straight.
You got that right. And also Zulus, they would take the entheogens so that they would know how to find the lions, or they even took the entheogens to fight the British. But getting back to weed, I'll tell you, I found that people their thinking seems to get nullified when they're smoking weed. So who all of a sudden in the powers that be said, give them plenty of weed, plenty of it. As a matter of fact, Monsanto, invest in the weed so we can really affect their thinking.
Marijuana, or marijuana as they call it, marijuana is a derogatory term. It was actually created by William Randolph Hearst. It was his name. It actually came because he was intimately connected with the Mexican Revolution with Pancho Villa. And there was a song called La Cucaracha, and I'm not going to sing this, Yo no puedo caminar, right? Now, that was a song that they used to sing amongst the revolutionaries. And marijuana was one of the words they used in that song. And he took it from that and called it that. So he now, and this is the deep part, hemp is called cannabis sativa. Now, anytime you see the word sativa, it means helpful to man.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So when you see the hemp plant did everything. It built shoes, houses, boats. It was a medicinal for pain. It had at least 100 different uses. It can be used for a fuel, like a gasoline. It can be turned into a gasoline. It's got like 50 different uses. But when they also found out that because they were worshiping it, that the hallucinogenic part of the marijuana plant, or what we call the hemp plant, is grown and nurtured. The way you nurture it is by clipping the male parts of the plant off and enhancing the female part to grow.
Well, that sounds like modern-day civilization. They're trying to take our nuts.
There you go.
And enhance the feminine principle through plastic, GMOs, and whatever.
There you go. And so when you smoke it, I had many brothers, Rasta brothers, used to come to me who used to be very avid smokers, and I had to take them off of it because it was affecting the fat in the brain and the fat in the testicles. And it's not to say that they have it's not medicinal, because once your body adapts to it and the genetics adapts to the tetrahydrocannabinol and the other cannabinoids that are in the plant, then your body becomes a part of it. Just like your body adapts to any form of psychotropic. It's you don't feel it until you. That's why the Jamaicans spliffs get bigger and bigger because they need it to get bigger and bigger. Their body is suffused with that material, so they have to take more and more of it to get the same effect. But when you clip off the female, and this is the metaphysical part of marijuana. The marijuana, the ancients spoke about marijuana once you grow it, because they used to come over here. The ancient Kemites, so-called Egyptians, used to come over here to get their cocaine. And what happens is, when the marijuana plant, the spiritual part of the marijuana plant is that it's a female spirit. It's a female energy that actually hovers when you begin to grow this plant. It becomes, they say that there's this goddess, a female goddess, that when you smoke it, she will give you insights into anything that your mind is focused on. She begins to open up different portals, and it affects the secretion of the pineal gland, and you get into these places of creativity and the sex. Everything is just wonderful, but she exacts a price after you come down. She begins to take away your memory. She slowly but surely begins to take away your short-term memories.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see if we take some calls.
Okay.
You open to that?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
757-768. 757-768. Do you have a question for Dr. Phil? Or do you have a comment to share? Seven 758. Do you have a question or comment to share? Well, thank you for listening in. All right, let's try 213-590. 213-590. Do you have a question or comment to share?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
Hello. Good.
Great.
Say your name. Say your name.
Okay, my name is Khalifa Bay, and I'm calling from Los Angeles, California. And my question, thank you. I just happened to be looking on Facebook and saw it, and I said, let me call in right now.
All right.
So my question is, with going into 2020 and being able to, because I was just kind of listening to Dr. B, and he was talking about the gut connection and the pineal connection. I don't know if you guys get that or not, but I'm hoping that you do. How I need to be able to, or I need a pathway in which I can connect what you're doing for me to become more fully awake, if that's the right way to structure that. Because I know the solstice is here, and I'm listening to what you all are speaking about, and it all connects. And I want to be able to make sure I'm fully grounded in what you're saying.
Okay.
So what suggestions do you have for me?
Well, remember I said that the name of this particular program is called Word War One.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the very words that we speak, that our soul and our subconscious is listening to, tends to cause us to subconsciously act in a certain way, and our conscious mind then follows suit. You said, I need to know. Once you need something, you put yourself in a deficit.
Okay.
The word
so what should I
itself,
be saying?
I get to know.
I get to know.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
I get to know this. Mm-hmm. I search for answers to this. In other words, the words that we're speaking to ourselves defeat us because we put ourselves in a deficit as if we lack something when we don't. All we lack essentially is the proper internal dialogue that continues to tell us what it is that we are doing is correct. And of course, the internal dialogue is subject to editing as you grow in the knowledge and as you grow in your own self-knowledge. Now, my webinar, I'm not sure, Brother Hank, do you have the link to register for my webinar? I sent it to your
Yeah,
email.
I have it on the posted on this Blog Talk show description.
Okay,
show
wonderful. Hopefully everybody who gets that will definitely tune in, because on the 29th, it's going to be at least 6 hours. Now, the next one after that, my wife and I are discussing opening up the lines like this to have a webinar dealing directly with questions and answers such as this. But in this case, it's necessary for us to teach and to put information out there for people so that they can get to correct the courses that they've been on. 2020 is going to be volatile, but it's going to be a good kind of volatile because, as I've been saying since 2000 when we first came into the 21st century, once we get to 2020, just like 2020 vision, the physical vision becomes clear, and you have a clarity with 2020 vision. Your 2020 insight, not just the sight that you have that you process light with, but the 2020 insight is going to be focusing. You're going to come into a focus with self, or be forced into it. You either go in voluntarily, or you're going to be forced into having to deal with a whole other kind of focus, and therefore revealing a whole other type of paradigm where you have to act differently. Because the internal dialogue, in other words, the conversation you have in your own head, has to change. It has to become affirmative. You have to leave certain words out of your description of self and your description of your condition and what it is that you are going to push forward in your actions to achieve what you want. And there's going to be a whole change in monies. There's going to be the gold standard. There's going to be a destruction coming up of the Federal Reserve System, which means there's going to be some kind of crazy shifting, bank holidays, things of that nature. So there's got to be preparation. Put food aside, put water filters aside, get yourself a weapon. Do these things that get you to be self-sufficient at this particular time. Now, as far as you wanting to build yourself spiritually and what it is you need to focus, I would suggest you come to our university, because this is something that you have to do. It's an exploratory. Our University of Commission Sciences, I teach a course called Metaphysical Psychology. And in metaphysical psychology, we study how to reword reality. Now, there's a reality that you describe, which is surfaces. Right now, our entire reality is onness. Everything is onness, not inness. Everything is on, surface, lamp, this. I can touch it. So we don't have a definition of our reality. We only have descriptions of it. In metaphysics, in the metaphysical psychology course, we then relanguage reality so that you can touch the inness of a circumstance, especially yourself. It is about reworking you. And if you want to go up online and look at the testimonials in our university from the people that we've had the privilege of dealing with, you can do that. In fact, we've had I've had professors from MIT, pilots, fighter pilots, military men. I've had superstar athletes, superstar musicians. I've had and truck drivers, housewives, different people coming to the university, online that is, to explore something that they didn't get from their regular schools. So what you're looking for and what you're asking for is kind of, for me to even try to tell you what to do now is like serving you a McDonald's hamburger. Fast food.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see what I mean? It's fast food, and I can't do that. I have to really nurture what it is that you are so that we draw out. And there's homework assignments, there's all of those things that we task our people with. But then when you go and read the testimonials, you'll see short little blurbs of, we must have about 100 of them. We only put up maybe about 10 or 12 of them because to put up all of them would be ridiculous in the website. But to let you understand that the question you asked is a beautiful question, but it's a journey, not a destination.
Got it. I thank you. That's a confirmation of what I needed to hear. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sister.
Okay.
And
Big bro, I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, sister. What would you want to say?
Okay. You had a link that you were going to share?
It's on on the page, the Blog Talk page. And for everyone who's listening now or in the future, you'll find the link directly on this page. All you have to do is go to the link about 5 to 10 minutes after the end of the show, and you can press the link.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Yeah. I'll keep listening.
All right. Thank you for listening. All right. Phil, I just want to ask a question. I got to play devil's advocate. With so much going on with the vaccines, I went to that vaccine event up in Sarnetta's event at the Audubon Ballroom. It was only and I spoke to Curtis Koss, and he said it was only about 20% black folks up in there. The rest of them were European American activists from all over the country coming down to this event that Sarnetta had, and he had a little group of pro-vaccine activists who call themselves the Amin-Ra Squad, and they didn't sound very intelligent. So how does metaphysics increase intelligence if you don't have none?
Well, we don't want to just deny the brothers' abilities, or sisters' abilities from that. What do you say, Amin-Ra Squad? We don't want to just take away their ability to be able to transcend ignorance. Ignorance is not stupidity. But if you do have knowledge and you don't utilize it, or you have the ability to expand knowledge and don't do so, then you're falling into the realm of stupidity. But I usually reserve my my critique of people until I've had a chance to just talk with them and to listen to them. And yes, I did have a chance to exchange a few words with one of the members, and
I remember. I heard
that. Yeah, they're a little belligerent, and it seems that whatever it is that you put up to them, it doesn't matter what you tell them. It seems, I'm not sure. Not everybody is like that. I'm not sure if everyone is like that, but no matter what it is you put up to them to show them what is, it seems that they're going to take the same information that the Western medical sciences do take and then say that it goes back to Africa. No. Africa did not do what it is that they're doing here in the West and through the CDC. For them to compare what is being done now to what was done back then with the techniques that they did through the variole rather than vaccinations, there's a difference between the variole ritual and the vaccination ritual. The variole just pricked the skin. It didn't go down into the bloodstream. It pricked the skin with a small amount, or it just did a small cut and just rubbed it into the cut, but they didn't go down into the bloodstream to affect it in a direct manner, to put the poison directly into the bloodstream. What they did was to administer a homeopathic dose. I have to understand that the African peoples were practicing homeopathy, what they call homeopathy, which is similia similitum similiacus, which means like cancels like. I believe I'm saying it in the proper Latin. But in my course I teach called Classical Naturopathy, we speak about how you can actually initiate a passive aggressive form of healing by taking a tincture of a specific poison and actually titrating it or diluting it until the actual organic material disappears and nothing but the vibration of the material still exists. The body is a vibrating entity, and as a vibrating, resonating frequency machine, organic machine, the blood cells react to energy. It reacts to energy signatures. If you can take a specific toxin that has the same signature resonance as the condition that you're dealing with and introduce a small amount of that same resonance into the body sees just the resonance without the residual causing the body to be poisoned. The resonance now becomes an accelerant or an instigator for the body to kick out even more healing. So, for instance, the symptoms that you feel when you're going through an illness, that symptom is amplified. What you cause, remember that you get a fever, for instance, the body is creating these materials. They're kicking in these materials into the bloodstream called interferons. And these materials are there because the body's hypothalamus glands raises the temperature. It raises the temperature to cook out or burn out the offending material. And then if you notice when you have a fever, all of a sudden your body goes through chills. And what happens? Your nose starts running. What happens when you're in the winter? If you're over there in the winter, you're up in New York, and you're over there in the 30-degree weather, your nose starts running when it gets cold. Well, the body does the same thing when you're ill. It heats you up with this fever, and then all of a sudden drops the temperature. This is your hypothalamus controlling the healing process. What they have done, what some people do when they have the problems that they can't, say the healing process goes on longer than normal. What they would do is then institute a homeopathic remedy where they would then add the same frequency that the healing process is giving off. They'll add a material that kicks the body's reaction into higher gear, so you heal faster as a result. It makes the body work faster and harder.
This sounds very much like what I actually went through from a South American form of vaccine of the jungle, of the Amazon jungle. And what happened, the story was that an ayahuasquero asked the plant medicine what can help the village heal from so many of the diseases. And the plant medicine, the ayahuasca, gave the recipe to take the venom from a particular frog, scrape or burn off the top layer of skin, and apply just a little bit of the poison. And that poison, in turn, would kickstart the immune system to remove the so-called incurables. And they call it to this day Cambo. I went through 3 ceremonies in one day of the Cambo, where I have 21 burns, 7 on each shoulder and 7 on my ankle, and I felt very clean afterwards. So I can I can definitely concur what you said about the indigenous way of having vaccines. However, as I guess I'm an elder now, I never went through the rites of passage, but that's what they tell me, I guess, because my chin is frosty. I am noticing, Phil, a dumbing down of the general population. Do you believe that there is this what the vaccine agenda is, to literally lower the intelligence of the masses? Because people don't seem to be getting smarter. People seem to be getting dumber. Your word.
Well, I'll tell you this. From the time we started the vaccination exemption package back in early 1982, part of the studies that I undertook was to find out what was in the material that they were putting into the bloodstream and what were the short-term and the long-term effects. And one of them definitely had to do with disturbing the way that the brain learns. And it only happens, of course, with susceptible children. But this is the devious part. Back in the day when I was young, and this is where it attacked me. Back in the day when I was young, and back in the day when we were young, we weren't eating the same way. We weren't exposed to the same types of food. The genetic engineering and the dumbing and the mutilation of our foods had not accelerated to that point yet. And I'm kind of dating myself because I'm sitting at the threshold of 70. So now, over say the last 2 to 3 generations, the food supply has been instituted in the poorer communities and in different communities around the world, so that it began to create a susceptibility to specific types of vaccines and the materials in certain types of vaccines. So that once you have, say, foods that have a certain kind of lead compound in there, lead compounds now, when you have more lead in your body, it became more inviting of fluoride, for example. So what they were doing, they were manipulating all different types of chemicals and doing all kinds of manipulations of the food to create a susceptibility to specific types of conditions that would begin to cause a lessening or a down curve of the IQ, the intelligence quotient, and the ability for the children to be able to do critical thinking, which is why taking all the subjects that dealt with critical thinking, dealt with history, and dealt with anything that had to do with the exploration of self, Notice that. Not most of the curricula today is all about community, how to get along with everybody else. It has nothing to do with building on self. You have to step out of that and go into different schools that deal with how to get your mind working right, how to eat certain foods. It's not in the general population. So you're looking at the general population that has been targeted by this thing that I'm going to speak about with Agenda 2021 to Agenda 2030. It's dumbing down the population to prepare them for what I call strategic extinction. There is a part of my webinar that deals with the science or the sciences of strategic extinction. And what they're doing is they're killing off the population or shortening the cell life of the population, because what they want to do is to marshal us. You can't have property in the next 20, 30 years. They want to make sure you don't have private property. It's all of this whole thing, this whole Communist Manifesto, this whole thing with Darwinian and Malthusian philosophies. They've been doing this. They did it after Hitler. Hitler did this. They adopted Hitler's extermination process, who adopted it from us, from the Eugenics Society, and the British have been the ones who have been promoting this thing through the United Nations. And this started right after World War II, which is what I'm going to go into. See, we don't have the history. We don't understand what's going on, just like we don't know what's going on in the government today. We don't understand what's going on. We just say impeachment, impeach that goddamn Trump, impeach. And I'm looking at these people talking this nonsense. They don't even know what's going on. They're just hearing what it is that the propaganda states, and they don't understand that there's a war going on, and they're fighting a war, but we are the ones now that's going to start controlling things if we come back to who we are and what we are. And that is, we are not United States citizens. That was something that you adopted. This is something you accepted. And because of that, you don't have your ability to own land, which belongs to you. This is your land. This is not their land. They are acting as usurpers of the very law that you taught them. The Constitution we're talking about? It came from the Haudenosaunee, or the Six Nation Confederacy. They dovetail it directly, and I'm going to go into that in the webinar. I'm going to show you that there's nothing that they're dealing with today, that the European is dealing with today, that he did not learn from us. That's part of what the webinar is going to tell.
Now that you're mentioning this is definitely some Moorish intellects. And I say intellects clearly because social media, I think there's an agenda to dumb down the younger generation through the mass hypnosis of news media, social media, vaccinations, chemtrails, GMO foods, the plastics in the food. I really believe there is an agenda to prevent people from reaching higher states of awareness.
Indeed.
And so when you speak in certain key words, I just want to acknowledge my Moorish brothers. I want to acknowledge, I had a brother, he was on for the last 3 weeks. He bowed out to listen to you tonight. Professor Muhammad, I want to acknowledge Jonas Bay family on Jonas Bay Radio. What you're sharing is vital importance, Dr. Phil. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
How can people reach you on Facebook, Instagram?
Well, Facebook, Instagram. I don't have Instagram. I don't know what that is. So I've never been on Instagram. I wish I knew how to deal with Instagram, but there's a young brother out of Texas that's going to show me how to get up on Instagram. I'm old school. But if they wanted to get to me, they can actually call us directly at 800-847-1291. Again, 800-847-1291. However, if they want to get to register for our webinar, and it's coming up on the 29th, it'll begin at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's going to be on the 29th. It's after It's after Christmas and before New Year's. I placed it there so that you can be prepared, because after Christmas, everybody all drunk, they're drinking their eggnog and all whatever it is, and they partying, opening up presents. Save your money and get the most valuable thing that you could ever get, and that is righteous, integrous information. Now, in our school, we teach about information. Information, we say, is just the foundation. It's the soil. It's stagnant. It's just there. It has no life. Information has no life. When you take information, process it in your mind, and proactively act upon information, now it becomes knowledge. You don't get knowledge just by sitting there and listening to somebody. That's just you processing information. Knowledge is acquired when you activate information. Now, knowledge, once you have gone through all of it and you have understood how knowledge works, you have primed it, you have used it, you have made mistakes by it, you've solved problems with it, and so forth, now it leads to wisdom. So you go from information proactively acted upon becomes knowledge, knowledge processed and utilized with integrity leads to wisdom, and wisdom in the latter ages is something that you come to the understanding that you never, ever stop being a student. The great masters are always students. And therefore, from that point of wisdom, you reach enlightenment. So there are 4 stages to that. So you will get information from me on the webinar, at the webinar, but it's there for you to use, to utilize as knowledge so that you can come into your own wisdom. The other thing is that you can actually, if you want to get to me to send you the links to the previous webinars so you can be prepared for the third one, just send a note or a request to my email at sanu777@gmail.com. Again, Sanu is S as in science, UNNU 777@gmail.com. Again, Sanu, SU, N as in Nancy, N as in Nancy, U, 777@gmail.com. In the subject box, put all capital letters webinar, WEBINAR, and I will send you the link to register for the upcoming 29th and the 2 previous ones I did, which are titled Hyperdimensional Warfare, where I show you how to get prepared for what's getting ready to come down. I'm talking about what water filters to get, what guns to get, what different types of foods you need to have, what types of medicinals you need, how to create a bug-out bag. I give you the complete rundown in hyperdimensional warfare. The second one that is prepared and is there for you is called the Pedivore Parallax. This has to do with the snatching up of our children and the different institutions that are being used to kidnap our children and to foster care. All of the people, how they do it. This is not for children. By the way, if you're going to look at Pedivore Parallax, please make sure that the children that are there are not looking at it with you. Only children or young people 16 years and over, of age and over, and of course, parental discretion is advised. So if you want, just send a request. We will definitely help you by giving you the registration. And on the 29th, we ask that you come in at least maybe, I would say, a half hour to 15 minutes beforehand so that we can be prepared. You can be prepared for 6 hours. There is an intermission. We do have an intermission, 3 hours of one part, and then part 2 after the intermission, and then we close out. But it's going to be 6 hours. Get prepared. Don't eat. And, if you're going to deal with it as far as the children are concerned, make sure that, because I know it's hard for you to pay attention. But know that, I talk a lot and I talk long wind. But the reason for that is because there's so much to tell you so that you'll know exactly what the subject is really made of. A lot of people just talk about things and they don't give you the meat. They don't give you the substance. They don't give you the cellular makeup of a particular subject. I do.
I want to thank you for being on the show tonight, Dr. Phil Valentine. We're getting ready to close out. Do you have a direct contact number? I don't know if we went over
my
that.
Direct contact number. Yeah. My direct contact numbers I don't give because I would never have any peace. So I usually have an 800 number. That 800 number I gave you, 800-847-1291. We definitely check it out, or I have my administrative assistants. They check it out, and they send the messages to me.
Excellent. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for all the people who are in the house. We are out of time. We are going to close out. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.